The James Webb Telescope has just revealed what happened before the Big Bang, and it's terrifying. A multitude of other universes are causing our theories of a single, temporally, and spatially limited universe to fail. We really do live in a multiverse where nothingness cannot exist, and our world is just one of many others. There is currently great excitement among scientists. If the crazy worldviews of quantum physics turn out to be true, our world will change dramatically. A revolution in worldview has begun. The events of the present are comparable to those when it became known that the Earth is not the center of the universe. At that time, clerics took to the barricades, imprisoned researchers such as Galileo Galilei, and burned a researcher named Giordano Bruno because he defended the heliocentric view of the world. Today, we can observe scenes in our science that make us doubt human reason and the freedom of research, as if research were still about a paradigm dispute and not about the truth. Scientists haggle over the survival of their old ideas and theories, but none of these theories can really be correct. The latest findings show that our universe is completely different from what we previously thought. There was not nothing before the Big Bang, and many researchers have known this for a long time. But it took the shocking images from the James Webb Space Telescope to give our sleepy science the wake-up call it so desperately needed. The Big Bang cannot have happened 13.8 billion years ago. We see no evidence of a linear expansion of the universe. Quantum physics has been showing us for years that absolute nothingness cannot exist, and theoretically speaking, there's not even any solid evidence of a beginning or an end to the universe. At the moment, it's not even certain whether time exists at all. If the new timescape model is correct, then time is an illusion that we humans are caught up in, and we have built an entire cosmology on this illusion, evidence for a universe that existed before the Big Bang. It's incredible what the latest images from the James Webb Space Telescope show. For the first time, we are seeing evidence of a universe that may have existed before the Big Bang. The Big Bang was therefore most likely not the beginning of everything, but a transition from a previously unknown state. If we believe the visionaries among scientists, it will only be a matter of time before we know more about what existed before the universe. Other recent observations by the James Webb Telescope have now also provided evidence that the universe is expanding at different speeds in different directions. And this is such a stark contradiction to the previous theory of inflation that it must also be seriously questioned. Mysterious objects in the early universe. Some exhibit properties that cannot be explained by known theories. Hundreds of galaxies so old and so advanced must have formed before the Big Bang, proving that the universe was very different from what previous models claimed. We are looking 13.5 billion years into the past with the James Webb Space Telescope. But there is no sign of a beginning, young galaxies, or a so-called dark age. Nevertheless, conservative scientists stubbornly cling to outdated theories and resist clear facts, as if we were still living in the Middle Ages. Models such as the multiverse or cyclical cosmologies have long been passionately rejected by narrow-minded researchers, even though there is now sufficient real evidence for these phenomena. It seems a little as if, in research, it's no longer the person who delivers the best results who is right, but the person who gathers the most followers and supporters around them. These old branches of science continue to fight against the findings of quantum research and new cosmology, but more and more images and data from the James Webb Telescope are driving change forward. What would actually be so bad about a new worldview? Has so much really changed for the Earth or humanity since we realized that our blue planet is not the center of the cosmos? Not really. Only a few dogmatists or the rulers of the church had to admit that they had been spreading false worldviews. For them, this was a threat because the power system of the church would have lost considerable influence as a result of this loss of face. At the time, there was a fear that free science could become the new intellectual elite and replace religion. In a way, that is what happened. Today we have just as crazy battles within science. No one is executed in science just for claiming that the Big Bang never happened. The battles are fought at press conferences, in professional journals, on social media, or in a veritable war of studies, counter-studies, and interpretations. Are we in a war of science? That claim would probably be going a bit too far. Today, thanks to our technologies, we have far more reliable facts, and it's only a matter of time before the truth becomes increasingly apparent. Many truly open-minded and enthusiastic researchers hope that the current tensions will soon be resolved by new images from the telescope. Then, after a period of chaos, new truths will emerge, and we will most likely have a whole new worldview. In any case, the current data suggests that our previous understanding of space, time, and cosmic origins is fundamentally wrong or incomplete. With each passing day, the picture becomes a little clearer, and we may soon be able to present a new cosmology. The pieces of the puzzle are already forming a fascinating picture of what might lie ahead. Let's take a look at the most important new ideas. The bubble bath multiverse. The so-called bubble bath multiverse is a fascinating concept that has its origins in string theory. This model of reality is based on the idea that our universe is just one of many bubbles in a gigantic bubble bath of universes, each of which can have its own physical properties. String theory basically assumes that our universe consists of one-dimensional vibrating strings and unfolds in a space with more than just 4 dimensions. A side effect of this theory is the possibility that there is not just one universe, but many, with different times, dimensions, and perhaps even parallel worlds that exist side by side or within each other. In this context, the concept of eternal inflation is also expanded. It's no longer just about a single universe expanding into a void, but about countless universes simultaneously expanding, contracting, colliding, or passing each other by, like bubbles in a bubbling soup. Some of these bubbles show regional expansions. Others are denser or locally compressed. New universes, or in other words, new bubbles, are constantly being created, some of which exist only briefly, while others develop complex structures such as stars, galaxies, or perhaps even life. In this model, our own Big Bang would not be a unique initial event, but only a local occurrence in a larger, overarching cosmic process. Perhaps the Big Bang was just the moment when our bubble came into being, a brief flash in an eternal bath of possibilities. Cyclical universe models. One universe follows another. In the cosmic bubble bath, there could be another effect that scientists refer to as the cyclical universe. It's becoming increasingly clear that the Big Bang was not the beginning, but a transition, possibly from a previous universe. In Roger Penrose's conformal cyclic cosmology, a universe emerges, develops, dies, and gives rise to a new universe. In this scenario, the Big Bang would not be an origin, but rather a cosmic restart, a reboot of reality. However, this variant of the new cosmology is not limited to a single universe. Countless other cyclical universes could exist side by side, one after the other, or nested within each other, an infinite rhythm of expansion, decay, and rebirth. This theory is particularly supported by the many extremely well-developed galaxies that the JWST has discovered in the depths of the early universe, as well as the gigantic black holes at their centers. The latter cannot have grown within just a few 100 million years, even if that would have been the case according to the old cosmological model. Roger Penrose published his work on cyclic cosmology back in 2015 and was initially heavily criticized for it. Just 10 years later, the spectacular images from the James Webb Telescope confirm many of the ideas of this exceptional British researcher. Ironically, this is precisely what is uncomfortable for conservative scientific circles, who were responsible for launching the JWST in the first place. Many of these scientists hoped that the mission would provide evidence for the lambda CDM model, the theory of the classic Big Bang, cosmic inflation, and a clearly calculable age of the universe. But instead of confirmation, there is now one thing above all else: massive doubt and new questions. Do we live in a cold, empty vacuum? Perhaps the Big Bang was not what we always thought it was. Some scenarios, now increasingly taken seriously, paint a very different picture of the beginning of our universe, or rather, what might have been before the beginning. Instead of an explosive beginning out of nothing, there may have been a cold, almost completely empty vacuum, permeated by a mysterious form of energy. There were no stars, no galaxies, no time as we know it, only silence and energy. This vacuum energy could ultimately have triggered what is known as inflation, and a phase began in which space and time expanded extremely rapidly and were set in motion. In this scenario, the Big Bang was not the beginning of existence, but only the moment when structure, matter, and light came into being. In other words, the transition from a purely energetic, structuralist state to the dynamic diversity we observe today. The question surrounding the new cosmology has thus expanded. It's no longer just a question of whether the Big Bang happened and what came before it, but rather whether there was ever a real beginning, and what the true nature of our universe is. Perhaps we are living in the middle of a multiverse, with other dimensions around us. What we see could actually be an illusion created by our thoughts about space, time, and matter, a construct that we ourselves have formed and whose limits we are now reaching. A new worldview changes everything. Think about how much people's horizons must have expanded when they began to understand that there are many more suns in the universe, or when the first images of colorful and strangely shaped galaxies became known. Since then, we have begun to look further and further into the cosmos, studying its size, age, and function. Today, quantum physics tells us that this is not the nature of reality. Reality is much more likely to involve many variations and possibilities. But does science, as we know it, still make sense? Many prominent researchers, such as Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Brian Cox, repeatedly point out that we need to unite disciplines and theories. This requires openness, because the key to truth may not be as far away as we think. Subscribe to the channel now for many more exciting videos.